Got two things going at once. Okay, there's StreamYard. That's working. And then Zoom. Hang on. Switch this up a little bit. Okay, Roberto, is that back in there? Bravo. There we go. Thank you, buddy. Okay, so welcome everybody. It's December 11th of 2024, and this is the real estate agent plan, the profitable real estate agent plan. And I just wanted to pull up, sorry, I'm juggling screen shares here. I just wanted to pull up the agenda. We are in week 3. Why should they do business with you? But I'd like to go back and just reiterate where we've been and how we arrive at this night. So the very first week of this program, which is a 12-week program, which is what I think are probably the most critical components of what I've learned over all these years, how I implement this myself. If it's the first time you're listening in to me talk about this, this is actually what I do for a living. I don't pontificate and make this up. These are the things I use to run my own book of business. This plan has really been at the core of what I've done, really, especially for the last 36 months, 25-year career, but I'm focused on the last 36 months and telling you my best stuff and how that has, been executed. I think I've sold now over $68 million worth of property in those last 36 months while running a full-time coaching program, while running several buildings that I run that are my investment properties, 5 kids, et cetera. So it's a time management formula, and that's what it is. And it works. And what I want so desperately is for all of you to duplicate it. But the way to do that is to really listen to me and don't think that this is theory. Don't think this is something you can cherry pick. All of these tools are tools that I use and teach. Some of you are one-on-one coaching members. Some of you are Griffins. Some of you are just guests. Whatever the case might be, I don't care. This is the way the business really works. And I wish somebody was out there to tell me this in earnest early on, 25 years ago, let alone even 12 years ago, when I had to start my own coaching program because the recession had changed so many things. The digital age has changed so many things. And the irony is the business at its best never really changed during all of that. Meaning, Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth, discusses and asks a simple question. How does the business really work? And the business works on the back of listings. So you, all of you, no matter where you are experientially, you have to learn how to do business with people that you do not know. It's critical, right? And you have to learn to do business with people that own a listing. And if you want to be a profitable real estate agent, you have to start with each individual sale, which means you need to find somebody who owns a median and above priced house so that you can stay focused on being as profitable as possible in the area within which you prefer to do business. Not like, oh, well, someday. Nope. Today, that area is where you want to do business. And that's what you're focused on. You're trying to do business in an area, get those listings at or above the median, and get the best commission possible. Now, you learn that especially tonight, okay? Especially tonight. But it starts off with believing, why not you? So the first week we talked about bulletproofing your self-image, and we've referred to several books along the first couple of weeks, but the first of which is something called Psycho-Cybernetics. Some people find it a very tough read. I don't, but you might, but I would still read it. I would listen to the audiobook. I would try to consume it. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. That book changed the way I think about everything because I like practical books. I don't like rah-rah books. I like books that are practical. They have a strategy, and then they give you some tactical advice on how to make that strategy come to life. And so that book means mind steering systems. You can steer your mind to be a profitable real estate agent. And I am living proof of that over the last 36 months. I made a very determined effort that during the recession, I would never lead my business again from the buy side. I would never lead it with internet leads, and I would definitely stop selling below median and above, median and below if I could help it. I went from selling properties in high volume, lot of volume, meaning number of transactions, in the $350,000 to $400,000 range for a very long time in my career, to over the last 36 months, I have averaged $1,086,000 to be precise. How did that happen? First, in my mind. I saw it happening because I just simply did the math. And I said, if the business allows for a median price of X, back then the mean price I was using was 577. I was just trying to get from 400 to 577. And then we started to easily surpass that, because when you look at a median number, there are plenty of numbers to the right of that, meaning there's just as many sales above the median and as there are below. So I started to believe that, and I started to steer my mind there, and I didn't really know how I was going to do it in the beginning. And that's what Psycho-Cybernetics starts with. It says, don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just start to picture yourself doing it. So that's a very, very important first week. We also talk about the DISC personality profile, because we're all wired to either be dominant, influential, steady, or compliant, or some combination thereof. And some of those things we aren't, and we need to be. And some of them we really are, and we need to tone them down. So it's important to understand the DISC personality profile. So not only do you understand what you need to know about yourself to make adjustments, but also when you go out to do business with people, who they really are. You can't force people to behave the way you want them to behave, because that's how you are. You need to be able to see those both sides of that. So all of that is head stuff, all of it. And if you don't have a footing for that to begin with, it's very difficult to understand what's wrong. So you start with the head stuff. The next thing is, once you start to understand that consciousness, and by the way, there's a continuum in psychology that you start off unconsciously incompetent, okay? This is a psychological state. Week one is a lot about psychology, but you have this unconscious incompetence, meaning you have no idea what you don't know, right? Hopefully a course like this begins to make you consciously incompetent. You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea you could steer your mind that way. You could program the subconscious. I had no idea that I was a D, not an I. I had no idea that my spouse, my friend, my partner, my clients were S's and C's. So you start to become consciously incompetent, right? Then what happens over time is you start to learn new practices. So you get a new strategy. Okay, I'm going to now start to do what he said, and I'm becoming a little bit more competent strategically. And I'm going to learn some of these tactical things, and I'm going to start them. So we become consciously competent, right? So we go through this continuum, unconscious to conscious, incompetent to competent. And then ultimately, when you start to get into a groove like me, you become more unconsciously competent, meaning what? You're behaving in a structured way all the time with very little thinking about it. Now, I don't rest on those laurels ever. There's not a week that goes by where I don't question my competence level, because there's so many little details that you can refine forever, not the least of which are caused by changes on the exterior of your business, right? So just so much consciousness about psychology that bears on the outcome of your business. Now, once you get that down, the brain is a very simple thing too. Its survival mechanism is a very goal-oriented thing. Aristotle talked about the mind or man being teleological or goal-seeking. So we can't just dismiss goals as just a thing we do on New Year's Eve. That's not really how it works. Goals are more like, I have to, if I go at the base level, if I go to really Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I need to put food on the table so that I can eat, and I have to put a roof over my head, right? I have to do some of these real basic needs I have to fulfill on. So I need a goal. Right? So I need to sell something to get paid. And even if this is a part-time job, which I talked about last week when we talk about these financial goals, I broke it down to working at Starbucks or Whole Foods for $18 an hour, 15 hours a week for about 48 hours a year. And all of a sudden you realize one deal is that one. So this can be a really, really killer side hustle business, but not without a plan. because you can really start to fret it, and people panic and they go take a part-time job because they need some cash flow. And the next thing you know, they've lost all their freedom for not more money. So all of that goal setting, we simplified in this group here, right? And especially my coaching group, to just pick a goal that you would like to get that even just replaces a part-time job or adds the amount of money you need to pay off your school loans or whatever, some clear monetary goal that's reasonable. I can't believe how many people come to me and say, I want to make $500,000. Well, why don't you make the equivalent of a part-time job so you understand what one building block looks like, and then try to do that 3 times a year and you tripled it. Do it 6 times, one every other month. And now all of a sudden you have a very viable part-time to full-time job. And then ultimately really turning it into a business, right? Well, all that starts with a North Star. You need a financial goal and you need to learn how to do that. Go back and watch the replay from week number 2. We break it down so simply that you know you can do it, right? It just becomes a very logical thing that you would have to really hide under your bed for 52 weeks a year to not be able to reach it, but not without a plan. And that's the whole point of this course, right? So that leads us now to, okay, so got my head stuff straight. I have my goals. How? How do I do this? How do I go out and explain to somebody that they should do business with me? And that's where we find ourselves tonight, talking about a unique selling proposition that answers that question, okay? So let's get into that. I'm going to pull up the slides here, just make sure you can see when I start this slideshow. Why should they do business with you? Roberto, you're my man. Can you tell me how I'm looking there? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so developing a unique selling proposition to answer the question, why should they do business with you? You, sitting there today, you, point the finger at your chest. It's essential. So we're going to use this tonight to go through this, okay? So let's break this down with the concept first. The first time I heard unique selling proposition, I didn't really quite know what it meant. And you know what's funny about small business and coaching and teaching and training? People just throw these terms around as if we're all supposed to know the definitions already, right? Everybody loves to, talk in these cryptic terms. I'm a researcher of the most basic type. I'm a Googler. The greatest thing that ever happened to me in the history of time is that Google came along and my curiosity in a simplistic way, and YouTube for that matter, as a sister to Google itself, I could really go in and just learn some stupid, simple things. I love stupid, simple questions and their answers because most people assume they have that base level understanding and they don't. They're lying to you, right? They just throw it out there as if they have a command over it. Some do, most don't. So the concept of a unique selling proposition, after I went digging, I realized it was first introduced in 1940 by advertising executive Rosser Reeves. So this was a guy that worked for a company called Ted Bates and Company. Let me see if I can bring old Rosser Reeves up here so you can see this old timer and what he looked like. We'll put a real, because it's kind of he's got a cool vibe picture here. Let's see if we can't get you one here. We'll talk about this guy here. Bear with me. I'll show the screen here. Okay. So there's Rosser Reeves, right? Nice thick Coke bottle glasses. He's got his cigarette going in his Wikipedia page, right? Advertising executive for that company called Ted Bates, right? So you'll see here as you look down here that Reeves believed the purpose of advertising was to sell. So this is interesting as we get into how we relate this to what we do here, right? So advertising, marketing, these terms also get tricky, right? Marketing to me is a little bit more of a global term. There can be a lot of things engaged in marketing. Advertising is a little bit more directly running an ad. And back then on the old Madison Avenue days, things would be in the newspaper, things would be in magazines, advertising, or they then would become, something that became something on TV as TV began to proliferate, right? So you'll see this, that he insisted that an advertisement or commercial should show off the value or unique selling proposition of a product, okay? Let that sink in. Let it be there for a second. Not the cleverness or the humor of the copywriter. That's kind of a revolutionary thing because what a lot of people do, including my mentor, they got very gimmicky, right? Your home sold guaranteed or a buy, it's gimmicky. it doesn't really show off the value of the service that we offer. It's more of a kind of a bait and switch, because not everybody can qualify for a trade up program, which if you really understand how those work, or zero down, not everybody qualifies. So sometimes we get carried away with these hooks and these ideas where really what I really struggled with and I wanted to get back to was something that was more universally appealing, right? I just didn't like the fact that some of these things, didn't really relate to everybody. And that's what I wanted my business to be able to do, was be able to relate to everybody, right? So let me get to this here. So when you look at this, the idea was it's supposed to show off this value, right, of the product. In our case, productized service, right? Because I'm going to talk about how I really productized it with this physical package tonight when I get to that. But this all came from this kind of studying, right? So a unique selling proposition is the one thing, okay, that sets a product or service, that's us, okay? We are a service. We take somebody A through Z, all the steps of selling a property, all the steps of buying a property. That's what we do. We're in the service business, right? But it doesn't mean we can't look at us like a product so that we can take some of these advertising and marketing concepts and relate it to us. And this is an important chapter for me, for all my coaching members or Griffins that are in here tonight, to really understand why I so adamantly talk about our burgers and fries manufacturing, meaning our seller plan and our buyer plan, right? Because a unique selling proposition, or USP, is the one thing that sets them apart from competitors and makes it stand out in the marketplace. So when I first sat down to really think about this, I struggled with this, right? Because when you sit there and think about it, and you ask somebody, what makes you different from another realtor? It's a tough thing to answer. And historically, most people that I would ask that question to would immediately go to what you would call today, in a modern context, virtue signaling, right? Well, I have integrity and I work hard. And all these values, personal values, they would begin to extol how virtuous they were, as if everybody else was a bum. So it already sounds kind of weird, juxtaposed against everybody else, as if they're not good people. And so I didn't like that either, because it still wasn't really in this Rosser Reeves unique selling proposition mentality. We weren't really trying to think about what could we make, how could we make our service sound unique, be unique. And that's where that struggle, where a lot of coaches and trainers like my own mentor got carried away with people that were coaching them, right? They picked up these things that sounded different so that they could say it, but they were nothing more than gimmicks. So you still have this dilemma at the core. How do you, as a real estate agent, behave differently as somebody who's serving the public? How do you do that, right? So let's keep going with a little Rosser. According to Reeves, a strong USP should be unique, specific, meaningful, and memorable, right? This is where people get carried away with gimmicks. And again, going back to the Wikipedia description about Rosser Reeves, he said it shouldn't be about the humor. Let's go back to that Wikipedia thing, because this is a key point right here. Let me show this tab again, right? Hang on one second, I keep messing myself up here. View this tab. Oh, hang on. Okay. So you see this where he says this, or he doesn't say this necessarily. This is Wikipedia, but this is, they glean this. Not the cleverness or humor of a copywriter. To me, that's one of the most important things I can teach you tonight. Being unique is not about being pithy or clever or humorous, because that can lead you down a slippery slope of the bait and switch. Because the more clever you get, you're using psychological tricks to trick somebody into doing business with you. Now, I am a huge believer in psychological triggers. In fact, when we get into some of the scripting later on in this course, I'm a huge believer in Robert Cialdini's book, Influence. You do need to know how the human brain makes decisions, because you can't be naive to that, because your competitors who are clever and certain tricksters are going to say things to trick people into doing business with them. And there's a lot of good people that do that. And they don't even consciously know they're doing that. But, things like saying, Sotheby's, we have international buyers. No, you don't. You don't. Otherwise, you'd have a long list of them and you'd be able to show a bunch of double-ended deals where you did it, right? That's an example of something I encountered as something that is not the truth. It's not the truth about how the business works. So I started to learn, wow, a lot of people, even legitimate businesses, are saying these silly, pithy, clever things that just aren't even true. You can't even back them up with fact. So that really puts us all in this kind of moral dilemma. So you're trying to be morally, on the high grounds, but you're realizing it's a dirty battlefield that you're trying to play that game on. So you have to understand you got to be careful to be, not too clever yourself, but you have to master this game, right? So coming back here, let's go back here. Specific and meaningful are things that you'll hear me say throughout this course, right? When I talked about the goals, I like a crooked goal for your business, meaning when you're trying to gross a certain amount of money before your splits because you're a business owner, I don't want you to say, I want to do, I get it. I'm going to beat the 12,375 of a part-time job here. So I'm going to do 20,000. No, you're not. You're going to do 19,762. The brain wants unique and specific, meaningful and memorable concepts, because that's what wakes it up. That's when the brain takes something serious, is when it hears those things that are these unique, specific, meaningful, and then it becomes memorable. You're like, oh, I remember that goal. I said 19,762. 20,000 is patronizing. I want to do 20,000 in my business, get a little extra cash, pay off some school debt. You're patronizing the brain. It doesn't come to life. It doesn't become resourceful. Go back to week 1 and really look at psycho-cybernetics, and you're going to understand why meaningful specifics matter. And the great Zig Ziglar, if you ever want to do some extra fun homework, go listen to Zig Ziglar spit. Man, that guy was one of the best motivational speakers. But he said, why be a wandering generality when you can be a meaningful specific? And again, Zig was influenced by all this mindset training that, came from the early days of Napoleon Hill, Wallace Wattles. I'm trying to remember all of the great people that have written books about really specific goal setting. I am a huge fan of Brian Tracy. A lot of what was taught way back then, Brian distills into very simple books, but it's very, very important to understand, not just for you and your goal setting, but when you speak to the public, you want to speak in meaningful, clear specifics about how you do what you do, right? So, sorry, I'm zipping through these things by skimming my fingers over. Today, the concept of USP remains an important part of marketing and branding strategies. Okay, so now let's go up into a bigger global idea of who you are in the marketplace. So for me, marketing is all encompassing. My branding, right? How does my business card look, touch, and feel, right? So here's one of them here. These are very thick stock. There's a foil, a gold foil. The stock is solid, right? My picture, my clear contact information. That's all part of marketing the brand. This is carried over to our signs that look the same color scheme. Our website looks the same way. We try to really be impeccable on the website with high definition pictures. When it comes to these unique selling proposition packages, which I'll talk about at the end of this call tonight, everything in here is consistent with that. Well, that is all the marketing of the brand, right? All of that is part of the marketing. But still, you still have this challenge of this unique selling proposition. But what about the tagline? What about, how are we going to say that this is all matters? Because just because your business cards are thick and your sign is cool, doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything about the uniqueness of the service, but you do have to understand it in the greater context that when I teach a unique selling proposition in this day and age, the way I understand it, it's not just going to be about these 2 packages I teach you. It's going to be that these 2 packages set off a unique behavior pattern. You are going to behave uniquely, A through Z, all the way to when you close somebody. But it's going to start off with us really doing something very unique versus all the competitors, which I'll give you a little teaser, starts with productizing your service and giving it away for free, okay? So that's really, I'm going to get to how I got there in a second. So companies seek out and promote their unique selling propositions as a way to differentiate themselves from competitors and capture the attention of consumers. So again, if I want to go talk to, okay, I want to go talk to, say, a seller, okay? I want to go talk to a seller. Let's get into this now, by the way, because it's that easy to talk about unique selling propositions just to get you there. But I'm going to tell you how I took that knowledge and stepped into this. I started to think about, in a modern context, in the information age / the digital age, what am I seeing for successful business models out there? And if you think to the early information marketers, and I was around a lot of them with Dan Kennedy and a lot of the people that they were really selling shovels. They're like the early, for gold diggers online, they were selling shovels, websites, coaching on how to, get a website up and going, or coaching programs and all these things. They were really the pick and axe salespeople of the Wild West days, right? So all the gold diggers would come and they would sell them their things, and they were information product salespeople. But what they were doing in the beginning, they were supposedly giving away their best what to do information for free. Come on this webinar tonight, and I'm going to break down exactly how I do what I do. It's a little bit of a bait and switch, but close enough. So you would go on one of these webinars that could last hours, an hour, whatever, and there would legitimately be people talking about how to do something, right, or what to do. And I was trying to differentiate. Really, the how to do was, oh, by the way, I know that's a lot. I happen to have done a course. It's online. It's on demand. And for $19.97, $1,997 was the magic number that they all had. You could pay me in 2 payments, 3 payments, whatever, but I have all the solution. So I know you just saw what to do, but you don't know how to do it, but you really want to do it. Give me $2,000 and I'm going to let you have access. So I watched that model for a very long period of time. And what I realized was, okay, so they're really giving away what to do for free. And then they're selling how to do it. So that was a pretty easy concept to break up. And then I saw, oh gosh, it was Chris Anderson's book, Free, I think I listened to early on, and how all of a sudden you saw software companies giving away their software for free. Hey, get the free version of our website. Oh, you want the paid version? Oh, that comes with the IDX all built in, right? That's $4.95 a month. So, you just saw it everywhere where there was a freemium. Well, it turns out back in Ross Reeves' day, right? And by the way, if you ever heard Madison Avenue or you watch Mad Men, it was all about those advertising days of the 40s and 50s. And there's some really, really fascinating evolution of marketing and advertising. But even back during those days, there was a concept of the freemium, something that was given away like a premium for free. And I remember as a kid, I'm 58 years old, so I'll date myself here. I remember as a kid, you would see an advertisement in, I'm trying to remember what kind of magazine it would come in, but you would see it. You could join a record club. And so all you had to do was cut this thing out, and you sent them some money for shipping and handling, and they would send you back a sample. You get a sample record or whatever it was you would get. There were other things too that you could get that freemium. So the shipping and handling exchange, if you gave them, whatever it was, they actually changed the relationship with you in that minute. And Dan Kennedy talked about that openly in the modern context of this age because he was a student of all this. So the idea of a freemium, giving away something, all of a sudden changes the relationship with that person. Because the minute I give you some money for something to mail back for me, I actually became a customer. And even though I think I paid for shipping and handling, I really paid you some money for that freemium. And smart marketers are willing to give away their best what to do information for free, pretty much, right? So I started to think, well, how do you apply that to our business? Well, first of all, you have to productize our best what to do information for free. You have to turn it into something, I thought, right? I don't know how many people were going to jump online that wanted to sell their house like a wannabe information marketer would, to listen to Brendan Burchard, Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, all these people I grew up listening to, right? So I thought to myself, well, why don't I go to Starbucks and sit down and let me think about this. If I gave away my best what to do information, what would that be? Well, I guess let me take it to an extreme, I thought. Well, I would go to your house and I would do everything that I do. I would tell you what to do and what not to do. I'd do an analysis to include a net sheet to show you what you walk away with. I'd get you all the subcontractors to help you put the stuff in the right order. I'd get you cleaner, get you landscapers. Then I'd go get my photographer. We'd take high resolution pictures. If I was really doing, the full digital media, I'd mic myself up. I'd do a walk and talk video. I'd do a Matterport tour. I'd do a postcard. We'd do telemarketing calls. We would do all of these things for you, right? And why don't I just offer to do all of that for free? So that was the thinking. Now, I know it sounds ridiculous, so stay with me. I started thinking to myself, okay, well, that's ridiculous. I can't do that because I'll be out of pocket a couple grand, right? So I'm not going to do that. But what in that package could I pull out of there and give it away for free? What could I do? Well, I could pull out the knowledge of, those are all the what to do's, right? I'm actually I could tell you what to do with or without me. And I started to write them down. Well, what to do? Here's what to do about pricing. Here's what to do about conditioning. Here's what to do about staging. Here's what to do about marketing. Here's what to do about feedback when they're coming in and out of your house. Here's what to do about negotiation. And here's what to do when you're closing a property. So I just made those categories and I started writing down what to do. And then all of a sudden I realized, well, wait a minute. I'm doing exactly what these information marketers are doing. I'm actually creating an information marketing product. So there you go with marketing, right? I'm making an information marketing product if I physically do it, right? I mean, I could have made this into a PDF. I could have turned it into something, but then I started to say to myself, yeah, but people love a real gift. Now you start to get into the Robert Cialdini concepts of psychological marketing. Cialdini is actually very well known in marketing circles because those psychological triggers are part of what makes marketing work. So here's an information marketing product that I am physically holding up. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second. Come back onto the Zoom. Hang on one second, because I'm going to get a little bit more physical with this. Let me see. Okay. Pin myself here. Hang on, sorry. So this, my friends, is an information marketing product that explains to a seller, and I have a buyer package beneath that, what to do. Okay? This is what to do right there. Okay? That's the curriculum for a seller, and it tells them what to do without me. Okay? Without you. It is universal. It is evergreen. It is the same stuff and the same way anybody has to deal with how to sell their house, right? Eventually, right? I'm not saying I'm going to tell you how, but I'm going to tell you, you better consider what pricing means. You don't like the pricing that you're going to get, you better consider what conditioning and reconditioning your property means, from no cost to low cost to high cost, right? You better understand how to get rid of your own crap in that house and move your furniture around, or even go to the extreme of hiring a professional, right? And again, you see how pretty I made it? Marketing, right? Because you're going to see how this segues into me. But in the beginning, it's all this information product. Now, all of a sudden, I'm going to give this to a seller who has context to sell. It doesn't land with somebody just because it's pretty. You don't give this away like hotcakes to anybody who owns a property. They have to have the context to sell for this to be relevant, right? And helpful. But if somebody has that context, now all of a sudden, this freemium is very relevant and helpful. So I started giving this away to people instead of business cards, and it was well met. But something was missing. So yes, it was unique. Yes, I was the only one doing it. But I have to also consider, when I find that ideal seller in a state of thinking about selling, this is what they need. Okay? And nobody really wants to be told right up front what they need. They want it, even though they don't know they want it or they know they need it. Okay? But they really like are behaving in certain ways. So I became a good observer of, well, how do I get that person's attention? Well, I noticed Zillow was getting their attention really well by giving away our information. So when we were listing properties, they were giving away pictures, details, maps, and everything on an app. And they were getting all these eyeballs. But I said, well, wait a minute, I can't compete with Zillow, but what if I just printed stuff out for people straight from MLS, just like me as a realtor? And what if I made it the sold information, which is a little bit more insightful information, right? What if I gave them the candy they want with a little bit of a twist and I printed it instead of making it digital? Now I'm unique. I got two unique pieces in this value stack, okay? But they all also want to know, how's the market? So what does that look like in a really condensed format? So then I made this one pager that showed how the market was. And I threw in the candy, all the cocktail talk they love to talk about, average sold price, price per square foot, all this inventory, all the interest rates, all of the little things that they want to know. They want to see what's selling around them, even though when they don't know they want it. And then at the bottom of the cake is what they really need, right? And that's the plan. And all of a sudden, I had a 3 stack of value that I said, okay, this is a heavy dose of what they need on top, on what they want on top, and what they need on the bottom. And all of a sudden, I have a unique selling proposition package of information. There's my USP, just like that, I thought. Okay, now I'm all dressed up for the prom with no date. I got to find an avatar, right? And we're going to talk about how to really define that next week. But I've got this, and it has to land in the right spot. I can't just give this away. And by the way, I also came up with a copywriting. This is copywriting. When you see highlights, underlined, enclosure, lettered, titles, PSs, and all that, that is copywriting technique. So this is very intentional, the way that this is written. Because if I'm going to give this away, it needs instructions on how to consume it. And then wink, 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 how to get to me if you want to know more. So I'm not going to hard sell them a close on a webinar, I figured, but I am going to tell them exactly where to find me if they want to know how I would do it for them, right? So that becomes a very important segue. So you have your cover letter that explains all of this stuff that's going to set it up. Now, all these copywriting coaches like Dan Kennedy and marketing coaches say, pop that in a plain envelope and have it ready to go, hand addressed, right, to that person so that it shows up in their mailbox like an Amazon fulfillment moment and people can get excited about it, because that's also a psychological trigger called the law of reciprocity. So not only did I develop a unique selling proposition package of information that was going to make me stand out by far and away from my competitors, none of my competitors do this. I have handed this to people, said you should do this too, and it's just lost in them. Believe me, people pay me to coach them to beat this into their heads, okay? Nobody seems to understand historically that this is all rooted in psychological weapons of marketing, in real, laws of psychology and behavior. Like, this is extremely intentional and wildly unique, and nobody's doing it but you. So it makes it, all of those things are USPs supposed to be, right? Now, it turns out when you have this, like I said, you can send it to somebody and have it not land. You're like, well, it didn't work. No, because like I said, we talk about it next week. You're going to land this in the house of somebody who has context, expireds, probates, where somebody has passed, a referral, where there is truly some sort of a reason to sell. So somebody has to have a real why they want to sell or buy, for that matter. So we have the buy package too, which just mimics the sell side, except it has the buyer course, right? So you have these burgers and fries that I keep saying. If you don't know how to make a burger seller plan or seller package, information package, and a fry, the buyer package, you are nowhere. because you don't have a unique selling proposition. So what you're going to default to is winging it. And it's stunning to me how many people this is still lost on them that are close to me. I just don't understand. Like, I am telling you, I have turned those unique selling propositions into staggeringly big commissions. Staggeringly big. Like, thinking of one, $85,000 that started off from a package like this. And if I really went through that whole building, 3.35, that was the expired that got one of these, sold the neighbor downstairs for 3.4, picked up the buyer on that one too, got an extra 1% on that, so it was another 34,000 and picked up money. My brother, off of that listing, picked up a client who ended up doing $12 million worth of business, and I currently have a 2.6. And it started with a package just like this. So I don't know like how else to get everybody's attention other than saying that's what a unique selling proposition that shows your best what to do information can do to get you in a conversation. Of course, there are other skill set things you need to learn how to do, because when we go into the home, right, we're still now going to have to do the insightful stuff. We're going to have to teach you how to do an analysis. So those very same solds that you gave, you learn how to do a simple analysis under our watch. You learn how to do a simple net sheet that shows them actually what they would walk away with. So including your commission and everything in here, the sell side, the buy side, all this obsession about what do I say about the buy side commission? Nothing. You put it in everybody's face and say, here's how the business works. And here's the plan that I'm going to, bring you to get you the best net. Right? So you're going into a property with all the same information, but just, obviously going to walk around and tell them what to do and what not to do. Paint this. Nope. Don't replace the kitchen. Yep. Put new countertops on. That's what to do and what not to do against the conditioning and staging plan. And then the analysis piece of it. Right? And then it just becomes a presentation. There's no big new thing that you learn. It's the same unique selling proposition behavior. So as you go along the stage, and then when they become a client, that's the plan you're executing. You're telling them where you're at. You're making in adjustments that you need to make so that you can eventually get them under agreement and close them, because that's what the 7 steps said, right? So that's truly how you understand what a unique selling proposition is and how you get started in that, okay? All right, all in one breath. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to go to Q&A now. It does look like, I thought I had some questions in here. So don't have a big group here tonight, so feel free to ask me some questions. And by the way, when you get me in a course like this, because you come live, you can ask me questions about anything in this course, or you need any coaching, anything. So now is that time, because it sounds like the house is about to come down outside. It is windy out there tonight. Open up your mics. Yep, go ahead. Hi, Taya. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah. Yeah, well, look. Next week I'll talk about it a little bit to pull it together. I think the most common mistake is that the first thing that everybody defaults to in their brain is taking. Okay, so like when we get a license, a real estate license, we're looking to take a deal, right? It's a natural instinct. It's a hunter-gatherer instinct to go get fed, right? Go get paid. So what we do is and I started off like this, right? I mean, I was like this, real estate, right? Because I was hungry. I had 2,000 business cards. I had, an aggressive attitude, and I had 2 little kids at home, and I was just starting a business. So if you sneeze the words real estate close enough together, I was going to get into the conversation with you. So yes, that's the number one thing to look out for, is that, and first of all, by the way, Ty, I would say leads are hiding in plain sight. They're everywhere. People that need to move are hiding in your face. It's just that we're not conscious of that, right? We're not conscious. We're not listening for it. We're not falling naturally into the conversation, right? So once we become conscious of it, we realize, people move for all sorts of reasons. They get job changes. Somebody dies. They change schools to districts, whatever, right? I mean, there's hundreds of different reasons people move. You just need to be ready to give, not take. So the big mistake is we are ready to take, not give. So the idea is, if you are on the hunt in your brain, listening for conversations, hunting for conversations about somebody making a move, it's more like you want to be aggressive. Hey, I heard you were thinking about making a move. What I could do is I could put together a package of information that would help you move in the right direction to get top dollar for your house, that would help you get the best house at the right price. It's free. There's no obligation to use me, right? What it includes, and this is where you need to learn the language, what it includes are pictures and details of properties that sold around your property, straight from MLS, just like realtors. A one-page statistical market update that would show you the exact direction of current market pricing. And as a bonus, I'm going to give you a copy of my 7-step plan. It's the same one I customize for my clients. May I give that to you? So it's a huge give, not a take. Because if you don't have something to give, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? Hey, can I help you? That scares people. There's a saying, prospects pursued run away, right? So that is the biggest mistake to look out for is, am I trying to take the business, or am I learning how to make a package of information to give away and see how they react? Hey, not everybody that gets one of these or is offered one of these says yes, accepts it, and allows us to continue, right? So we're giving this to try to be unique versus trying to take their business and giving them nothing, right? Why should they give us their business if we're just taking and we're not adding any value? So yes, that is the number one piece of advice I would give you, to be aware that you're going to do that naturally and try to break that habit and be ready to give a package of information. Yep. Great. So I think you should look at all your options. In fact, I would appreciate if you compared me to everybody else. But I can't speak to Sally's resume or Jimmy's company or whatever. All I can speak to is this information that I'm going to give you. We all should be giving it to, okay? Because it is pictures and details of properties that sold around yours straight from the marketplace called MLS. That will give you a feeling for what buyers are interested in paying for what features. The second thing is, you need to know what's going on in the marketplace. Is the average and the median price going up or down? Is price per square foot going up or down? And then lastly, you need to know the 7 universal steps that you're going to go through. So go ahead, talk to 5 or 6 people. All I ask is that if nobody gives you information like that, consider letting me take it to the next level with you, where I'll analyze this stuff for you and I'll show you what you walk away with if you let me in the house. So what? We want competition. Yeah. Yep. The avatar. The avatar. The avatar. You can. You can. I'm going to define it for you right now. To be a profitable real estate agent, one deal at a time. I don't know if you heard me say this, but the most important thing, right? The most important thing is to understand, to be profitable, you want to focus on whatever marketplace you're in, what's the median price, right? And if I recall correctly, you're in Seattle, right? So Seattle's somewhere these days, median prices in the 8s to $1 million, okay? It's plenty good enough. So you want to try to focus, your avatar is a listing, right? Or a buyer, those are the fries, but the listing, who owns a house at 825 and above? And within which area do you, like, where do you live? I just recommended to a guy that's going to join us in Boston. I said, you live in Malden, right? You live there, right? So you stay there. Hi, Paul. You can leave. But it is, I see you saying hi. But the point being is that you want to look where you live, look at what the median price is, and try to do business with people that own something at or above that, right? Yeah, right. Well, I'll get into some of the psychographics too, why and motivation and all that. But from a business standpoint, part of the definition of avatar that I want you to focus on is the middle price and above. I'm not saying, that I wouldn't help somebody who's broke and, has the lower end house, but they're much more difficult to deal with, right? They're much more difficult to educate, and it's just a harder business. Why would I want you to do that, right? I want you to be profitable. So, but we'll, yeah, go ahead. Come on, keep coming. Yep. Yes. Oh, easy answer. Is it hard for an introverted extrovert to give something helpful, expecting nothing in return? Yes. It's a joke, easy, right? You could give those away like candy to help people, right? And expect nothing in return. And I'm telling you, if you can really buy into that Christian philosophy or just altruistic belief system, that if I give enough of these things, somebody's going to let me sell them a house. That's how it works. So, see, you're worried about being extroverted because your brain is defaulting to taking business. I'm not teaching you that. I'm teaching you to find people that need help and give them the free stuff and then see what happens. It's exactly what it is. It's no different. That's exactly what it is. Nobody's going to do that but you. That's what's great about it. It's a unique, that's what we're talking about tonight. Hopefully, yes. Hopefully, they want more. And when they want more, now I teach you how to do more, right? Because when they come back, you got to do more than just give them this. You got to be able to give them advice. And that's what we teach at the next level, right? Cool. See, you got it. It started to click up there, right? Give. Give means something. It's a free subscription. So hopefully some of the good ones come back. And we don't need too many of the good ones to come back in Seattle for you to make some money. You're welcome. Excellent questions. All right, what else do we have? Got 5 minutes left. You all good? Yeah, my man. Keep coming. If you're gonna, hey, listen, if you're gonna be the only one that takes advantage of it, go ahead. I'm sitting here calling for calls, and if you're the only one, go for it. Oh, I love that. Go at it, my brother. Hit it. Let's go. No, I've been around coaching for a long time. I see people teach tactics. I know a lot of coaches are out there will teach you all the scripting that you want, right? They'll teach you lead generation, but those are just pieces of a whole, right? I mean, if I showed you this, let me see if I can show my screen again. Bear with me. Da, 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 I'll show you these topics again and I'll explain that to you. Okay. Let me see if I had this. Must have 86, the other thing. So look, this is 12 weeks of a strategic approach to running a business. Okay. There are a lot of other things in here that I teach, but I want you to understand a business is like an assembly line. even though it's in the service business, right? What you have running along your assembly line is a contact. That's the raw material. So imagine Elon Musk building a Tesla. They have a lot of aluminum that comes in the beginning, and the aluminum body of this electric car is being shaped and things are being added to it, the electronics and the software and everything, until it produces a car. Well, what you're producing is a happy client, a past client, right? At the end. So what comes in the front end is contact information. So the best raw material you can have is a full name, a mailing address that comes with an email address and a telephone number. That's a fully formed contact. Now, when that first comes into your business, we call that contact a lead, because we don't know why they want to move, and we don't know how motivated on a scale of 1 to 10 they are. Before they can change from a lead to a prospect or trash and get thrown out, is we have to determine why. Why do you want to sell this property? Well, the way that we get that answer why is we give first, then we ask them, right? Then we say, hey, listen, saw your beautiful house online. Let's pretend it's expired. And I go through that. So then I go to that level. Then once they're in there with prospecting, we talk to them and babysit them, and we keep them updated on what sells all along before they're ready. We give them market updates. We do drive-bys. We give them insight until they're ready to have us in and have a presentation, convert over to a client. And then we got to get them priced right. We got to do our open houses. We got to negotiate, put them under agreement, go through a closing process, make it through that process without problems, and then they become a past client. That's a holistic approach to business. So you will have a very hard time just in small business, in any kind of small business, finding people that are interested in spending the time it took me to understand the business for myself, selfishly first. I didn't do this for you first. I did this for myself first and my family. And then I shared it to all my coaching members and everybody that they bring in. And now a free course, right? So I don't know that many people would take the time to go through an A through Z system. So God bless you, go out and hunt. I actually point you in the direction, including tonight. Where did I learn a lot of this stuff? A lot of basic books were brought to me. So I had to take knowledge from certain books and apply them to certain parts of the process. Some relate to the whole thing. Some relate to parts of it. It just took me, 25 years to be sitting here doing it like this. So I can't speak for who else is out there, but I can speak for what I'm doing. Good. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Good book. Yeah. Well, you take some notes as you're reading it. And when you come on these calls, you tell me what you're saying. We'll talk about it a little bit. Yeah. Good. Cool. All right. I'm going to call it here, guys, because it's 8 o'clock. I don't like to go over an hour on these calls. Appreciate you all. Yeah, come with your questions, write stuff down. Don't be shy. It's just me. It's an intimate, setting. And please, when I teach you something here, like Taya did, just go out and do this stuff. Like nobody's coming for you. You got to take action. I'm sitting here giving you my best what to do stuff for free. It's what I do. You can see me sitting at my desk. This is how I do it. I try to be as transparent. I'm not bragging about anything. I'm just simply telling you, this is how I do what I do. Okay. So learn it, live it, love it, and go do it for yourself. See you next time.